I'm always the quiet one. That's the thing. You've got like Paddy, who's like the dad. He's like,
Daddy.
Let's start the podcast, everyone. Hi, I'm Paddy. And then you got Rob, who's like, I'm the well-spoken one. Listen to my story.
Yeah,
about glands.
Listen to me command like a fine captain.
Yeah,
That's how he is.
Exactly. And then there's me. Who's like, hello, I've got a terrible accent. Let me talk about fucking milk.
Usually I do the introductions on our TFU things, and it's sort of like, "What's up, guys? Retro J here with Mocked Wolf 666." All right, and that's it. And that's
me.
That's pretty much what happens.
Anyway, this is 1 hour stories. We've got a very special one for you today. We have 2 very special guests. If you want to introduce yourselves.
Okay. Hello, I'm Julian Gill, aka Jules Gill, aka that guy who stares at you on the bus. I'm here to help out with the 1 hour stories because I studied with Rob back in the day at Exeter Uni, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, thank you. And we also have
Cameron Stanley. I'm an American student, and I'm currently studying at Exeter University, so I got invited along as well.
And I'm Rob. You probably know me by now. We have a interesting theme. It is Death of a Clown, which caused some.
Who came up with that, do you?
What kind of video came up with that, Jules?
It was better than Mexican pro wrestling, which was the first idea.
Wait, who came up with that one too?
I don't know. Seriously, the idea is amazing.
I was I like the Mexican pro wrestling one as well, but I genuinely had no idea what I was going to say for that.
I was my Mexican wrestler was called something like El Cabio, which is like the briefcase. It's like case closed. That was his finishing move.
That's good. Get them to file some paperwork on your.
Yeah,
ass.
exactly. There were just so many good ones there. I'm gonna kill you in triplicate. Right, let's carry on.
Excellent. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first, but only because I want to just get it out of the way.
Yeah, you sure?
Yeah, sure. So, do we need to introduce anything about the story, or do we
don't have to. You can just dive right in.
I kind of want to do my sort of fake British voice, where it's like the inconsequential clown. Where it's really sort of like breathy and. No, I'll just do it normal.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, let's do this. The inconsequential clown. Thank you for your kindness. Steve brushed down his coat and staggered to his feet. People continued to rush past into the mouth of a nearby tube station, ignoring the gaunt man in full clown makeup who slumped against the wall. They knew he was drunk, he knew he was drunk, and the rapidly advancing policeman definitely knew it. "Are you okay, sir?" he asked as Steve fluffed his flake flower back into shape. His tone was anything but concerned. "I'm fine," mumbled Steve. "Just slipped, that's all." He pointed down to his feet and the oversized shoes which squeaked and wheezed. "Not the most appropriate footwear, sir." "Here, well, your hat makes you look like a tit, so neither of us is the King of Spain, are we?" "Move along, sir, get some rest, and if you're feeling up to it, get a better job." With that, the policeman disappeared, and Steve was left murmuring abuse to no one. "I'll have you know, I graduated top of my clown class and got my master's in balloon animals. Bendy Steve, they called." Steve waved his hand dismissively. Fuck it." Steve stumbled past the glaring lights of the tube entrance and felt the warm, stale air rush up to meet him. More people surged past. A few teens in the crowd pointed and laughed at the drunk, multicoloured mess. Steve curtsied and bowed as they guffawed and mocked and even smiled when they took photos. One went up to him and posed for another shot, and Steve whispered in his ear, "Keep laughing. Just keep laughing." The boy quickly moved away, rejoined his friends, and disappeared into the latest rush of commuters. Music began to resonate along the hallway, and as Steve rounded another tiled corner, he spotted a young black musician furiously pressing keys on a ragged Casio keyboard. His voice was beautiful, and Steve felt a warmth surge through him. As he relaxed, he could feel the notes permeate his being, and the warmth rose even more. It was only at the point where his stomach heaved that he realised this warmth was vomit. Thick, heavy vomit that lurched from his throat and onto the floor. It splashed up onto the musician's lap and flecked his face, causing him to stop instantly. He looked at Steve, shocked and furious. Steve raised his hands in apology, but his words betrayed his regret. "Please, don't take the vomit as a sign of my disapproval, 'cause you're actually," he wiped his mouth, pretty good. The musician continued to stare in disbelief as Steve advanced, slipping on the now viscous floor. Steve pulled a long string of hankies from his right sleeve and reached over to the young man. The musician suddenly roared into life and punched Steve square in the face, sending the thin clown flying. Lovely voice, a terrible attitude, though. Steve dabbed his nose with one of his many tissues as he stumbled along another nondescript hallway. That had been quite a scene back there, he thought. That one punch had knocked him senseless, and when he came to, he was alone in the space with only his sick and a bloody nose. Some very pretty girls swept up the opposite way to Steve, laughing amongst themselves, walking with such precise speed. As they approached, Steve tipped his patchwork hat, revealing his bold, painted head. Ladies, he slurred. The group of girls attempted to give him a wide berth, and one wittered, Oh God, clowns scare the shit out of me. Steve turned, yelling, There's nothing to be frightened of. Unfortunately, he span too far and clipped the backside of the final leggy blonde of the group. She shrieked and the girls descended on him in a fury unmatched. Yelling at him, pushing, one even kicked his balls inside his head, and another reached inside her bag. I'm so... Steve's apology was cut short as he gargled the entire contents of a can of pepper spray. He dropped to the floor and curled into a ball. A stiletto heel poked the skin on his side, and the combined pain was astonishing. The clatter of heels echoed down the hallway, and he was left alone for 10 minutes. Not a soul passed, and for 10 more minutes he writhed in agony. Then came a laughter, not from anyone else, but from Steve. It rose into a broken cackle, and then into a hoarse yell. People can't take a joke, he choked, tears mixing his makeup. That's it.
Oh, wow. Poor Steve.
Poor old Steve,
Poor
eh?
Steve.
Just a bit of a trivial fact for you. I was that clown.
You got pepper spray.
No, I've never been pepper sprayed, actually. I believe that it to be quite horrible and would have choose to avoid it any.
Yes. I imagine it's not pleasant.
That's probably my principal reason for not sort of engaging in or sort of partaking in any riots of any sort, just on the
Or
opposite.
clowning.
Yeah, clowning is quite dangerous.
I think there's always the risk of pepper spray if you're a clown. That was fantastic, by the way.
Did you like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I really enjoyed that.
Cool.
It was very funny and very dark at the same time.
Thank you very much.
I want to see more from Steve. That's the thing. But I mean, does he then die at that point, or is it kind of like the metaphorical death of a clown?
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole sort of like he's just going to give that up.
Yeah.
That profession is not for him. I mean, if I was to give it some sort of the original sort of darker tale was that he had been to his son's party. It was going to be like he was at the clown entertainment. His kid didn't like him. He got drunk and then left the house, sort of thing. And it was a bit sort of like sad. But I think it's better that way without a sort of.
I quite like just the immediate.
Yeah, just chuck
view.
you straight in there.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to go next, or shall I?
I'm not fussed. If you want to go next.
I'm easy.
Is yours good? Because we should probably end on a good note. So maybe I should go next.
I don't know
put
if
yourself
mine's good or
down.
not, but go next anyway, and then I'll play us out with
Right.
horror.
Mine doesn't really have a title. Death of a Clown.
That's fine. That's good.
Right. Most people have something to say about the issue of parents. I've seen politicians on TV talking about how important mothers are, how good the work of a parent is to support a family, and how much of a backbone families are to this country. Off of the TV, I think a lot of people really rely on their parents. Parents love their children and would do anything to keep them safe and happy. Children learn about the world from their parents. I guess most people think families are full of love and warmth, and in the end, we all want to keep each other safe. I never had that type of relationship with my own parents. On the first hand, Mom was dead, and it was about hard to bring a corpse along on field trips as chaperone, or to invite your friends over for corpse-baked goodies after school, or to have your corpse mom drive you to your football games after school. So that was a bit different. And Dad did his best, I think, but once he realized it was just going to be the two of us sailing into the sunset for all eternity, I think he started to go a bit weird. Or maybe he was always weird and I just got old enough to finally see it. But it was a bit rough to explain to my friends that I couldn't come round to their place because I had to help my father practice his clown routine. Most of the grade school lunches were marked with the cheerful and inevitably awkward conversations following along the lines of, my father the fireman, and my mother the veterinarian, and, well, my father the clown. None of the other kids quite knew how to respond to that, and soon I wasn't sure how to respond to it either. We did all right on our own, my dad and me. It was weird without a doubt, but I knew he loved me in his own way, whether it was the traditional whoopee cushion gag at the breakfast table, or a trick flower to greet me when I got home from school. Sometimes I think maybe he just didn't know how to be normal, and that was as close as he could get. I don't blame him for not dropping his career the minute Mom left. I think a man can hold down a job and raise a kid at the same time, but I do think it went to his head a bit, whether it was a clown job or just Mom's death. But sometimes it was hard knowing every other kid had a normal childhood, and mine was filled with face paint and slapstick humor and general buffoonery. I admit that I had grown a bit resentful during my teenage years, and I might have been a bit harsh with him at that time. His career was pretty sad, and he never got much work, probably because clowns had jumped the shark and now become a dated trapping of the good old days and times gone by. The new trend in the clown business was horror, and more of his friends were shipping out for the haunted houses and corn mazes. Not Dad, though. He just wanted to stay true to the nature of the art, or so he said. Personally, I think he just wasn't cut out for all that gory business, especially not after Mom. So he struggled on, landing the odd birthday party here and there, visiting elementary schools, and practicing his pie-in-the-face routines, and probably hoping every day that things would get better. It was pretty bleak. By the time I started attending community college, I knew better than to tell people about my dad's job. Hearing about a dead mom was bad enough on people, but hearing about a clown father morphed that pity into something grotesque. One time I was really serious about this girl Lauren, after we'd spent an entire semester failing mathematics class together. We liked to go and get coffee after class and make fun of our teacher, a bearded lady from Tallahassee with a thick German accent. One time she came around to get a coffee after class, and Lauren and I just about died from the hysterics. Anyway, Lauren came over to my place one time to work on a presentation, and I was leery about the whole thing because of my dad. But I'd gone ahead anyway, because he was supposed to be out at a gig. Well, what would you know, just as I'm offering Lauren something to eat, my dad squishes in, half naked and dripping on the kitchen floor, hollering at the top of his lungs about doing parties on riverboats. Needless to say, Lauren was out of my house before I could say, boy howdy, and after that, she didn't talk to me much. After that, there was a bit of a strain on our relationship, and I don't think that there was much going back. But the next week, wouldn't you know, my dad went to the pound and brought home a terrier. At first I didn't believe him, because when I was little, every time I'd ask for a pet, he'd made me one out of a balloon, and these balloon animal pets never lasted more than 2 weeks because the air ended up escaping and the balloon started going limp like my kitten or bird had suddenly started losing limbs. So that was pretty bad. But then my dad brought home this real live dog, and at first I thought it was an honest effort to repair a relationship. But then he started trying to teach the dog all sorts of tricks, as if hoping the dog could help out with his routines. I love that dog, and I think it kind of worked. Only the dog was terrible with all sorts of tricks, so unless my dad wanted to make the kids laugh by being purposefully inept, it wasn't going to work out. So my dad gave up and let me keep the terrier as a pet, and that was the first time we really saw eye to eye about something without the help of a surf lens. My dad knew that things were getting bad when he went 3 solid months without getting a gig, and then it was time for my graduation. I didn't want to graduate, but mostly because when I had graduated high school, he had shown up in his clown outfit and tried to entertain the guests. Then on that morning, he said to me that he was thinking of applying for unemployment. I said, Dad, you just keep looking for work. I'll get a job, and we'll make it work. I guess that was pretty sweet to him, because he didn't answer but toddled off to the couch. Later, when I got home from graduation, I saw that he had left his disguise glasses, so I tried them on for a bit, and I actually liked them. He didn't last for much after that, I hate to say. After I got a job helping out at the waste treatment plant down the road, we finally had enough money to get by. But he couldn't get any more jobs for a while. Finally, I nudged him into trying out one of those haunted houses, and he got it on probationary status, but he blew it after the first night when he pulled out a banana cream pie instead of a chainsaw. So that was rough on him, and he started to live on the couch a bit more, with the terrier at his feet and his props scattered all around him as if he might jump up and start playing again at any time. But he never did, and pretty soon he was dead too. I still sit on the couch sometimes, and the terrier keeps me company. He chewed on Dad's old trick flower for a while, but once it got him right in the face, so he left it alone after that. I think about Dad sometimes, and all the things I must have missed out on, like camping trips, and chaperones, and take your kid to work day. Sometimes I resent it, because it seems like I never got to be a normal kid. And sometimes I think maybe Lauren might have stuck around if my dad hadn't come into the kitchen that one time. But when I get to thinking, I remember at least it was pretty cool that I could wear a disguise to school and the teachers didn't recognize me behind my new nose and mustache. Or I had as many pets as I wanted. Or that when all the other kids were stopped from eating all their candy, I had pies and pies and more pies. Sometimes I'm not even sure if I miss my dad or if I'm glad he's gone, because it's been years since I've had a pie smashed in my face and I haven't seen a balloon in ages. Sometimes I just want to sit on the couch for a bit and wear my disguise glasses because I think that's what he would have done.
That was really good.
That was great. It was a really sweet story, actually.
Yeah.
Like this little portrait of a family.
I like that. That was very
Yeah.
good. Like nice sort of juxtaposition between it being sort of like I want to be normal and then wanting to actually follow in the dad's footsteps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
That's quite,
puts on the glasses.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah,
quite
that's
nice.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Rob, are you going to take us home in a glorious
going to-
blaze of fire like the
it's-
Hindenburg?
It's going to be glorious. As usual, I've gone for an upbeat story. It's
Rob
going to-
Upbeat Gordon, that's
Yeah.
what
Is
we call
there
you.
any milk this time?
There's no milk, actually. There are other things. No milk.
Oh, God.
Mine is also called Death of a Clown. It goes a little something like this. The funeral march blared, played on a collection of novelty car horns, shrill, sharp. The hearse had just arrived, a Mini Cooper, black. The doors opened and Bobo pulled himself out. His normally vibrant rainbow suit replaced by monochrome. The red, blue, yellow polka dots were white on the black polyester. His face paint, normally thick red lips, was instead a variety of subtle greys. The fabricated smile instead turned down into a frowning maw. Bobo wiped away a fake tear and stepped aside. Another clown left the Mini. Coco, his rotund frame forced into a suit, cummerbund straining. Then Archie, then Isambard. 6 clowns later, and finally the Cooper was empty, except for one thing. Bobo, with Isambard's help, reached into the back of the car and pulled out the coffin. Poor Tito. He had left them so soon. It had always been the way with extreme slapstick clowns. They burned so brightly and so fast. A blaze of barbed wire cream pies and acid salts. Bobo pondered as he carried the coffin into the big top tent, an accordion slur cooling from inside. His feet so small inside their giant polished shoes. Tito was gone, one of his oldest friends. Yet there was something wrong about the way he had passed away. It was not the usual accident. No catastrophic balloon animal failure, no 50-foot fall whilst tumbling in dangerous conditions. No, there was something off. Tito had been found impaled by 7 throwing knives in his training room, strapped to a spinning wheel. This was not the problem. Everyone knew that Tito was working on a new act, something normally only reserved for the magicians of his show. But the issue was, how exactly was Tito able to skewer himself? They had not found an automaton, a modified baseball auto pitcher. Unless Tito had somehow created boomerang knives, someone else must have thrown them. The detectives did not find anything. They never did when a clown died in suspicious circumstances. There were too many oddities on show, too many variables. One time, the wonderful Alfonso, a poet of the world of clowns full of whimsy and zany actions, was found dead in his summer house. His novelty door buzzer, which normally sprayed water, had been spiked with anthrax. The police had no leads. It must have either been his last great prank or perhaps a jealous ex-lover. There are a number of people who refer to themselves as the clown groupies. They do not take rejection well. Then there was Chuckles, overdosed on laughing gas in his apartment.
Jeez.
They had always expected it of him, to be honest. He had always been the black sheep of the clown syndicate, turning up drunk to children's parties, deliberately using the consensus feeling that clowns are a little scary to spread fear in communities, wearing his makeup and outfit outside of work hours. He broke many parts of the clown code, those laws passed down from the great post-war clown masters. But still, he was an intelligent man. He knew his limits. And there was the matter of the duct tape wrapped around his hands and feet and across the breathing apparatus, feeding poison into his lungs. Jemima, queen of the clowns, neck broken in a tragic trapeze accident. Camembert, the high society fool choking on large quantities of foie gras. Dr. Funnybones, the educational clown, teaching children about the dangers of the world of silent entertainment, found electrocuted by his novelty defibrillator. There were too many deaths over too few months. It could not just be coincidence. Bobo placed the coffin down. Oh, Tito. The tears started to flow now as he went to take his seat and placed his aching frame onto a whoopee cushion. He took a handkerchief out of his pocket, which turned into a string of hundreds. He passed it down the line of his brethren, each passing the lead clock to the next in row. They blew their noses in unison. It was a beautiful service. All speeches were mimed eloquently. Even the priest, who had always been a reserved man, even though his parish moved with the carnival, was in the clown's spirit, setting off a string of fireworks that spelled out Tito's name. Eventually, it was time to leave. Tito wanted to be cremated. There was no place in the ground for clowns. The coffin was pushed into the furnace. It would be used to power at least some of the acts, the cotton candy machine, the grill, the house. It was what Tito wanted. He was returned to the carnival to which he had given his all, and that had given him so much in return. And with that, it was time to leave. It was only a matter of time before someone broke character, spoke out loud, and Bobo did not want to be around for that. It was not becoming. Instead, he went back to the Mini Cooper, opened up the boot, and took out a tricycle, his transport home. It was dark by the time Bobo arrived back to his flat. The journey had taken hours, but he did not mind. It had given him time to think, and the exercise involved was what kept Bobo in his svelte form. Clowns have pride in their appearance too, for they are not always in makeup. He thought about de-clowning, going through the strenuous process of removing all traces of his true self and returning to what was now his alter ego, Malcolm Peterson, 48, mild-mannered former accountant, no family, a small abode above a Chinese takeaway. Instead, he wanted to live the dream a little longer. He kept his outfit on, the oversized shoes flip-flopping up the stairs, slipping on the last warning bills that had come through his letterbox. He jiggled his key in the lock, accidentally squeezing the miniature car horn keyring. Tito had given it to him a present long ago. It made him cry once more. The door opened. He stepped inside. He went straight to the refrigerator, opened it, the dull glow showing where the makeup had run, revealing crow's feet that stretched around his eyes. He avoided the spoiled milk, the stale bread, the green meat. There was a beer at the back, ice cold. He took two, went to his armchair, put the beers in his lap. A hammock formed where his oversized trousers kept shake between his outstretched knees. He turned on the television, cracked open one of the drinks. Bobo never watched comedies at home. They did nothing for him. Nothing that could match the thrill of what he tried to achieve every day. Instead, he turned to the soap operas, losing himself in the soft focus, the emotion. But it was too much for him now. He could not handle it. Instead, he turned the television off, sitting in silence, the only light source coming from his still-open fridge. That is when he noticed it, the reflection of the black screen. A shadow behind him, right behind him. Two hands on the back of his chair. He turned, but he was stopped, the hands holding his head in place. He tried to move, but he could not even get his form an inch from the chair. He looked down at the elastic gunk that had stopped him from even turning to see his assailant. Silly glue. Instead, all he could do was sit straight ahead as the figure walked round to face him. A black overcoat, a trilby pulled over his face. In his hands, gloved, a hand buzzer, a classic prank. Only this one was hooked up to a car battery. Bobo looked up to his killer, mouthing the word "why" over and over. The killer dropped his method of death, threw his hat to one side, dropped his coat on the floor. A black and white striped jumper, thick, tight trousers, white and red makeup. A mime. The murderer grinned, sharp teeth, and made jazz hands. And Bobo understood. Old tribes, old enemies. The old ways die hard. The end.
That was brilliant. That was awesome. I did enjoy that, man.
Oh, thank you. That was...
Gangland clown killing.
Yeah, you know, I hear that it was kind of like Oxford and Cambridge.
Yeah.
The mimes and the clowns. Back in the day, and they split off.
That's very
Still
cool.
Huge rivalries.
Turf wars broke out. Cream pies everywhere.
Yeah.
That cremation, though.
That was brilliant. I loved that. I think that my favourite bit was the description of all of the deaths, like Dr. Funny Bones, like being electrocuted. I just love it. It was so good.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I think we've been summarily outclassed, but what can you expect? Because he is well done. I mean, he is the host after all. So.
No, you guys were fantastic. I really enjoyed that. And I feel as though we all sort of filled the void left by Paddy and Rob, in that we had the sort of sweet, wonderful, emotional story from Cameron here. We had the dark, deeply comic, almost surreal thing from Jules, which took the place of Rob. So yeah.
And then we had the masterpiece from you.
The death.
Yeah, death.
The death and destruction and depression.
That's very cool.
Well, thank you very much, guys.
No problem.
It's been great.
Thank you very much for having us.
Definitely want to do this again sometime next time I'm down.
Sure thing.
The next actual 1 hour stories with the old two, those
the old
guys,
guards.
Not actual 1 hour
those guys, you know, not that we need them anymore. It'll be out soon. We're going to record it soon. The theme is an underwater city, and after that we have something very special in store for you all, which you'll find out more about very soon. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.